The morning I found that letter from the homeowners association wedged into my doorframe, I was already late for my hospital shift, coffee sloshing in one hand, keys clamped between my teeth like I was auditioning for a circus nobody wanted to see. That's me, Wayne Coleman, ER nurse at St. Mary's in Manchester, New Hampshire. I'd pulled a 12-hour overnight, and the last thing I needed was more HOA drama, but there it was, printed on that snooty cream cardstock they always use, basically, telling me big blizzard's coming clear. Not just your property, but all the public walkways too, or else. Fines start at $500, escalate if you blink wrong. Nice, right? So I did what anyone running on caffeine and spite would do. I crumpled the letter, shoved it deep in my jacket, and trudged to my truck. The sky had that look, the one heavy gray, like it's got unfinished business with the ground. Forecasts were screaming worst storm in a decade. And somehow the HOA Maplewood Gardens, which looked like paradise when I moved in, thought it was cool to deputize homeowners as their personal snow removal squad. Back when I bought the place, the houses were new, everything so neat and shiny. I didn't know the HOA board was a retirement home for bored busybodies with a taste for tyranny. Leading the charge, Barbara Hutchkins, 52X real estate agent, pastel cardigans, even in January, and a haircut that just dares you to speak to a manager. I swear Barbara treated her HOA presidency like she was running North Korea, smile never quite meeting her eyes, always on the hunt for a new violation. Trash cans visible for more than 12 hours. Violation. Petunias not on the official list, violation. My truck parked at what she called an unsightly angle, double violation. Saturday blizzards on us with a vengeance. I drag myself home from another brutal shift collapse in a chair, and I'm just about to shut the world out when the doorbell rings. I peek through the frost, and yep, it's Barbara, wrapped up in her signature purple parka snow, piling on her shoulders. Expression carved from stone. Wayne, I trust you received our notice about snow removal responsibilities. Barbara, there's a travel ban. What are you doing out here? HOA has exemptions for essential community management duties. Sure, Barbara. Sure you do. She was going door to door reminding us personally in a blizzard that we'd better get those walkways clear, or else. I tried to reason with her, said the rules weren't meant for end-of-the-world blizzards, but she just hit me with a smile sharp enough to slice a snowflake in half. The bylaws do not specify weather conditions. They simply state that removal must occur. Then she handed me another copy of the letter and announced, fines begin at 6 a.m. tomorrow. Marched off my porch, slipping just enough to satisfy karma without any actual injury. Later that afternoon, after failing to nap while the wind battered the windows, I get a text from Tom, my neighbor. Did Barbara hit your house about the snow? He's laughing, but it's that desperate kind of laugh. Turns out she'd hit every house on the street. And Dennis from down the way, he tried to comply, nearly gave himself a heart attack. Ambulance couldn't even get through the roads. Barbara was undeterred, emailing out threats of legal action and even more fines. I just sat there looking out at my buried driveway and the endless white. I'd swallowed her petty rules for 3 years, but risking neighbors' lives during a travel ban over sidewalk snow, something inside me snapped. That's when I remembered Uncle Jerry's old Ford F-250 with a heavy-duty plow just sitting in my garage. Jerry had run a snow removal business before he passed and left the truck to me. I'd never really used it. But that night when the storm eased just enough, I suited up, went out and started up Jerry's beast. I cleared my driveway first, then the walkway along Birch Lane just like Barbara demanded. Only I decided not to be subtle about where I dumped the snow. Maplewood's Queen Bee lived at the corner lot with the biggest lawn around. So I plowed every walkway clean, then pushed all the snow onto Barbara's front lawn. Mounds and mounds of it burying her fence lamps, windows, you name it. For good measure, I did the same to the other board members who'd signed off on her nonsense. 3 hours later, Dawn's breaking the community walks are pristine, and the HOA houses look like they'd been hit by avalanches. I sleep like a baby until Barbara's pounding on my door, face red and hair a mess. What did you do? She's shrieking, furious. My entire lawn is buried. I can't even open my door. I play innocent. You told me to clear the walkways. I cleared the walkways. Nowhere in the rules does it say where to put the snow. She's vibrating with rage. This is vandalism. This isn't over, Wayne. Looking forward to it, I tell her, and shut the door feeling lighter than I had in years. Support from the neighbors rolls in. Tom texts me, "You absolute legend." Other folks are cheering, sending thanks for standing up to Barbara. Even the usually quiet Patricia chimes in, "Thank you for standing up to that witch." But of course, Barbara and her cronies call an emergency HOA meeting promising legal action. Cops show up at the meeting. Barbara tried to report me for vandalism. The officers read through the bylaws, shrug, and say there's no law against how I complied. The community fed up votes against suing me. Barbara loses her cool, her allies start dropping like flies, and as icing on the cake, the board suspends the snow removal mandate and cancels all the fines. Local news catches wind of the drama. Nurse plows snow in blizzard HOA president's lawn, buried in retaliation. The headline's a little more dramatic than real life, but the sentiment's there. My story goes viral. People start sharing their own HOA horror stories, and Justice for Wayne becomes a meme. Barbara, meanwhile, is getting roasted on social media, her little kingdom crumbling in real time. But the saga's not over. Barbara tries to sue me personally for 25 grand, claiming I wrecked her landscaping and flooded her basement. My lawyer, God bless him, gets experts out, and all they find is one old sprinkler head cracked from age. We counter-sue for harassment. Barbara's emails to her co-conspirators plotting to make an example of me come out in discovery. The judge is not amused. The case is dismissed. Barbara is ordered to pay my legal fees. The kicker, turns out Barbara had been embezzling HOA funds for years. New board brings in an accountant and boom, 60 grand gone. She gets arrested, pleads out, does 3 years, loses her house. The community reforms. Helen Garcia, new president, ditches. Most of the petty rules focuses on actually making the neighborhood a better place. Barbecues, gardens. People actually talking to each other again instead of living in fear of violation notices. For the first time, Maplewood Gardens feels like home. I never wanted to be a hero. I was just a tired nurse who'd had enough. But you push people too far, make unreasonable demands, try to rule by fear, eventually something breaks. And sometimes, just sometimes, justice finds a way. Barbara's power trip cost her everything. The rest of us got our neighborhood back. Now I think about what happened. How one night with a plow truck set off a chain reaction that ousted a tyrant, fixed a broken system, and brought a little more decency back into the world. Was it petty? Absolutely. Was it justified? Hell yes. Would I do it again? Probably, though, maybe with less snow on the windows. The real lesson. Sometimes you have to stand up not just for yourself, but for everyone getting ground down by the same nonsense. And sometimes karma really does come with a snowplow attached. So here's what I want to know after all that. Where do you draw the line between standing up for yourself and going too far? What's the difference between justice and revenge, between following the rules and using them as a weapon? Have you ever tangled with power, petty or otherwise, and how did you fight back? Drop your story or your take below. Let's talk about where we stand, because in the end, it's up to all of us to decide what kind of community we want to live in.